They're not even pretending it's about the grass anymore. Because here's the accusation sitting at the center of the biggest story out of the 2026 Open. And it has nothing to do with a two-shot penalty on a par 4. The accusation is this, that a professional golfer, staring down a ruling he didn't like, reportedly reached for the most powerful man on the planet as his caddy of last resort. That when the rule book said no, Bryson DeChambeau's answer, according to multiple reports, was, in effect, let me call Donald Trump, and I need you to understand why that one sentence detonated the way it did. Because on its own, a penalty is a Tuesday. Golf hands out penalties every week. But this, a player allegedly threatening to phone the President of the United States to lean on the RNA over a lie in the rough at Royal Birkdale. This is something else entirely. So let's actually go through it. Is this the moment golf's coziness with power stopped being a joke and became a problem? Or is it a story that got a lot bigger than what actually happened? Let's do it properly. Start with the facts because the facts are not in dispute. Friday, second round. The par 4 fifth at Royal Birkdale. DeChambeau's drive finds the thick native rough, and as he sets up over his ball, television cameras catch him stepping in, shuffling his feet, pressing the long grass down behind the ball, right where the club would travel on his backswing. R&A officials review it. Their verdict, he improved the conditions affecting the stroke. Two-shot penalty, turning a bogey 5 on the hole into a triple bogey 7 and dropping him from 7 under and 1 off the lead to 5 under and 3 back. Now here's the part that made this a saga instead of a footnote. He didn't accept it. He argued. For roughly 40 minutes of back and forth, about 20 of them spent back out on the fifth itself with the R&A's head of governance and a senior referee, then another 20 or so in the scoring area, stretched across a 2-hour standoff, he pleaded his case. He was even granted the highly unusual step of returning to the scene of the incident in person to make his argument. When that didn't move them, and the chief executive Mark Darbin got involved, that according to reporting first surfaced by golf writer Jeff Shackelford in his Substack and then picked up by the Times and outlets around the world, is where the name came out. DeChambeau reportedly said he would phone Trump if the matter wasn't resolved in his favor. And the reason that landed like a bomb is timing. Because just days earlier, President Trump had waded into another sport entirely and made it work. In the World Cup's round of 32, American striker Folarin Balogun had been sent off against Bosnia and Herzegovina, a red card that carried an automatic one-match ban into the round of 16 against Belgium. Trump personally called FIFA President Gianni Infantino and asked him to review it. FIFA didn't erase the card, but under a discretionary article of its disciplinary code, it suspended the ban, and Balogun was cleared to play Belgium. UEFA was scathing, saying FIFA had crossed a red line and calling the move unprecedented and unjustifiable. It didn't even save the Americans. They lost that match 4-1 and went out. But the point had been made, a red card effectively unwound by a phone call from the Oval Office. That was days old news. So when DeChambeau reportedly reaches for the exact same lever at a golf major, nobody had to imagine what he was implying. The template had just been printed on the front page of the sports section and everyone had read it. So the question writes itself. Is this what sport is now? A game where if you know the right man, the rule book becomes negotiable? Let me stack up why so many people instantly answered yes. First, the relationship is real and it's close. DeChambeau isn't a stranger name-dropping the president. He's the chairman of the President's Council on Sports, Fitness, and Nutrition. He's played golf with Trump, appeared at the White House in May, and the two have a genuinely warm public rapport. So this wasn't an empty bluff, it was a man with an actual line to the Oval Office, reportedly threatening to use it over a golf ruling. Second, and this is the one that cuts, his own peers didn't defend him. Rory McIlroy, who watched the whole thing unfold live from the Players' Lounge, came out on Saturday and did not hold back. He said he wouldn't pretend to defend Bryson, that he wasn't particularly fond of him, and that a lot of it was, his word, performative, and for attention. He said holding the tournament hostage, keeping players and volunteers and everyone waiting on him to depart, wasn't a great look. And crucially, McIlroy said there was no doubt in his mind that DeChambeau had improved the line of his backswing, that whether it was careless or intentional didn't even matter. When the reigning two-time Masters champion tells you the penalty was right and the behavior was theater, that's not a hot take. That's the locker room talking. Now, I have to be straight with you about that McIlroy quote, because context matters, and this channel doesn't do cheap shots. These two have history, real, years-deep history. The bad blood traces back to 2022 when DeChambeau defected to the Saudi-backed Live Golf, and McIlroy became the PGA Tour's most outspoken defender against exactly the league Bryson had joined. It got personal. It boiled over at the 2024 U.S. Open at Pinehurst, arguably the lowest day of McIlroy's career, when he blew a two-shot lead down the stretch, missing two short putts inside 4 feet, and lost to DeChambeau by 1. McIlroy drove off without speaking to the media and took a month away from the game. At the 2025 Masters, the two were paired in the final group, and by DeChambeau's own account, McIlroy wouldn't say a word to him all day. So when Rory calls him performative, you're allowed to weigh the source. This is not a neutral observer. This is a rival who has admitted he isn't fond of the man. That doesn't make the criticism wrong, but it isn't disinterested either. And you deserve to know that before you take it as gospel. Third, the optics of the delay were genuinely bad. The dispute dragged on so long that tee times for the next round weren't confirmed until nearly the middle of the night. A whole championship schedule bent around one man's refusal to accept a ruling. Put those three together and you can see why the internet reached its verdict in about 4 seconds. Entitled superstar doesn't like the call, threatens to phone his powerful friend to make it go away. Case closed. And if you're as gripped by this one as I am, where sport and power collide in the ugliest possible way, do me a favor and hit subscribe, because this is exactly the kind of story we chase here. It genuinely helps. Now, here's where I have to stop myself, because if I only give you that version, I'm doing the thing this channel refuses to do. So let's be honest for a second, and take the other side of this as seriously as it deserves. Start with the most important word in this entire story. Reportedly. The Trump threat is a report. It's sourced, it's been picked up widely, and it's credible, but DeChambeau has not confirmed it. The R&A has not commented on the Trump connection itself, and there is no evidence any call was ever made. And here's the fact that quietly deflates the whole conspiracy. R&A Chief Executive Mark Darbin, asked directly whether he'd heard from the president, said flatly that he had not received a call from Trump and that they'd see what happened from there. He called the ruling unfortunate, but from a rules perspective, clear-cut, and stressed that irrespective of which player it affected, the decision was the same. So if the fear is that a phone call bent a governing body, that didn't happen. The system in this case held. The penalty stood. DeChambeau finished tied 14th. No one overturned anything. Second, let's be fair about the ruling itself versus the intent. Even McIlroy said the question of whether it was careless or intentional didn't matter for the penalty, and he's right, because that rule is about the outcome, not the motive. But it's worth remembering that Max Homa, who has known DeChambeau for years, stood up and said plainly that Bryson would never cheat the game of golf. Xander Schauffele called the whole thing unfortunate and pointed out the guy was playing brilliant golf when it happened. So the picture of a cynical villain gaming the system isn't unanimous. A chunk of the players' room thinks this was a genuinely aggrieved man who handled a bad moment badly, which is a very different thing from a cheat. And third, The part I think actually matters most. Threatening to call someone is not the same as it working. DeChambeau, by every account, was left without the presidential intervention he wanted. He argued, he name-dropped, he lost. Which means the scandal here isn't that power corrupted a golf ruling, it's that a player reached for that power and the game, to its credit, didn't flinch. So where does that leave us? Somewhere more uncomfortable than either side wants. Because here's the real damage, and it isn't proof, it's the pattern. No rule was broken by the R&A, no call was answered. But we now live in a world where a Bow Logan red card gets its ban suspended after a presidential phone call, and days later a golfer reportedly reaches for the exact same lever, and none of us found it hard to believe. That's the corrosion, not that it worked, that we all instantly assumed it could. When the powerful start treating the rulebook as a starting point for negotiation, the rest of us stop trusting that the rulebook means anything at all. And trust in sport is the whole product. It's the only thing separating a competition from a performance. This was never really about a patch of flattened grass on the fifth hole. It's about whether the line between I disagree with this call and I'll get someone to overrule it is holding, and how quickly we've all come to expect that line to fail. So I'm handing it to you because you're better at this than any of us pretending to be neutral. Was DeChambeau a genuinely wronged player who lost his cool in a big moment, or a superstar who thought the rules were something you could phone your way out of? Was McIlroy dead right, or piling on a rival he's admitted for years he doesn't like? Tell me below and be specific, because this one's a real argument. Because tomorrow we've got the flip side of this coin. The man who quietly won the whole thing while everyone was staring at the sideshow. Ryan Fox, 39 years old, first major, a birdie on the hardest hole in the championship to steal the claret jug, and almost nobody's talking about it. We'll fix that. See you then.